I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode.
Hi, everybody. How are we today on this beautiful Monday? It's not raining yet here. It says it might. I always got to start with that weather report because, it matters because you're all watching from exactly my same location and would have the same weather. Why I do it, actually, guys? Because I sit directly in front of a window. That is why I always talk about the weather because I'm literally looking out, and as the weather gets nicer, my view actually because this is the mood I'm in. Let me show you my view. Let me show you everyone. And see that little spot back? That is my garden. That is my garden. And when the weather starts turning nicer, it's going to be so beautiful. So I'm going to start talking about the weather even more because then I'll talk about my garden and all of my strawberries and all the things. But yeah, so there you go. And my cat is just loving his life right now in front of that window. Actually, maybe I should open it for him. I don't know. He's pretty content right now. Don't want to bug him when he's already content. Anyways, let's welcome our guest, Dara. You didn't actually tell me how to say your last name, so I'm gonna go with it and tell me if I'm right. So welcome, Dara Erck.
Good job.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
How is your weather?
Sunny and gorgeous in Denver, Colorado today, but I think it's supposed to get cold again tomorrow, so I'm definitely watching the weather as well.
There you go. Yeah, I think Colorado probably gets colder than me. So I am in Canada, but I'm in by Buffalo, and where I am, a lot of the states actually get colder than where I am specifically. So I think Colorado is one of those places that gets colder than me. So
I
yeah,
know it well.
yeah. Anyway, how are you? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I am Dara Erck, the founder of SAM+LEO. It's a teen mental health brand, launching 5 gummy vitamins in the functional space for teens in Whole Foods in a couple months. But my journey here is quite the journey. My background's in global health, so have been working for the Bill
Okay.
Melinda Gates Foundation for most of my career and in the kind of more of the scary HIV, TB, malaria, Ebola places.
Oh,
Um, and so, yeah, I'm in this founder journey. I have 2 teen boys, divorced, so single momming it, lots of mental health issues, and that's a journey as well. Myself, my kids, everyone post COVID. So yeah, I'm just here to like an open book to share what I've gone through and what I'm building.
perfect. Oh, I love that you said open book because our slogan that I randomly came up with on the first episode way back when, and I loved it, is the only way to end the stigma into health is to speak openly and honestly. So you're in the right place.
Yeah.
You're in the right place. All right. So I always like to say, when we start talking about mental health, is start your story where it makes sense for you, right? So it might be last week, it might be 10 years ago, it might be a million years ago, who knows? So
Yeah.
you tell me where you want to start and I'm just going to jump in with questions.
Yeah, so I think it's like just we could speak for hours about it. So
Probably.
first, yeah, my own family growing up, then my relationship with in my marriage, my kids. So it's kind of always been there. 2 things I like to say is one, mental health is just so encompassing, right? So it's
Yes.
it's substance abuse, eating disorders, anxiety, depression, OCD. Like there's just so much there, and it captures so much. So like
Yes.
that's huge in and of itself to touch upon that. And then my own journey has been so open to support and access to therapy or medication or whatever it is.
Good.
And I also say that even though when you have access, so one, it's really hard to find access for most people, but and also in rural areas. But two, even when you have access, 1 hour a week isn't really the whole book story thing, and not enough help for parents, for teens too, ourselves or teens. But
Yes.
1 hour a week isn't the whole story either. And so being able to talk about what does the rest of your life look like, even when you have access to help.
That is perfect because today is the start of Mental Health Awareness Week.
Hmm.
So that is exactly what needs to be shared is yes, even if you have access, 1 hour a week is not the be all and end all. It's a great start, but what do you do the rest of the time? I was gonna give you a number of hours, but then I'm like, oh, I didn't do the math real fast, so I'm not gonna. Um, but okay, so you mentioned a couple things. Um, First, you said your family life, like growing up. Was there something specific that happened, or?
Yeah, I think mostly my father in particular growing up with some his own mental health challenges, all of us probably, but not really having a diagnosis or knowing what it was, and he didn't really get the help he needed until I was well into my teen years, and so by that time I was like didn't have words for it, didn't feel supported. I was like, just get me out of this situation, and did a lot of my own coping and masking to handle that. Overachieving, over succeeding, supporting myself, paying my way through college, just very independent from a very young age. And I don't think I had the words or understanding until later of what that meant. And then when I started my own journey in intimate relationships or finding a partner, not really having healed from that or not understanding what codependency and all these other things that happen in relationships, let alone yourself. But then when you bring it to your relationship and not fully healed. And then when you have kids and you like do anything for them and want to support them and you start to see them having their own challenges and you'll do anything to help support them. But then taking a step back and saying, wait a minute, I can't do all three of you, husband, kids, and myself. Like, where is that space? And so I think it's just like every step of the way of figuring that out. And there's so much 2020, right? There's so much look back, but
Right.
so much of mental health is being in the present and in the moment and what you can do right now. And so, and no, it doesn't completely serve you to look in the past or think about the future, but there's definitely patterns there.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, you say so much in so few words. It's perfect. I love it. Because when you were saying the overachieving and that kind of thing, I'm like, oh, that hit me hard because as a teenager, that was me. That's so many people, right? And I've had this conversation with my mom now that I'm older, not old, just older. Um, and she never knew that how depressed I was or how I was feeling back then because I was doing fine in school. I was going out with friends, right? I was doing all of the things that a teenager is supposed to do, right? All
Yeah.
of the things, and I was doing all of the things well enough. So when you sometimes that means nothing. Sometimes that means the person's doing well. But sometimes that can be that we are overcompensating and trying to figure out a way to get out. And just like you, that's what it was. It was trying to get out. And at 17, I moved out, and that was that. Um, so when you look at teenagers now, it can be so hard because it is that, and you said again, hindsight's 2020. Um, so my mom looks back and she goes, I don't, how would I have known? I'm like, you wouldn't have. Like, you wouldn't have, period, because I hid it. And that can be so difficult as a parent, like you said, and now you're trying to be everything for your kids, which that's what parents do. They have to make their own mistakes, but we want to be there for them. But how do you do it if they don't talk to us?
Yeah, definitely with boys too. And one of my kids talks more than the other one for sure. Um, So, well, part of it, I offer therapy to my kids as like good mental health hygiene. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. We're not trying to fix you. There's nothing broken. It's just a good thing. Like, we go to the dentist. So that's one way of
Oh, I
like me
like the
trying to
way you put
offer
that.
it. But that said, they're a little bit hesitant because they're like because there is a safe space to talk or because they don't feel like there's anything wrong at the moment. It is sometimes harder,
Hmm.
especially as they get older. So that's one thing. And then the other um, is just kind of trying to have those conversations. What I think is different from us growing up too is this access to social media and what they can see online. Not just like the bullying and the Snapchat and all that kind of crazy stuff that's happening with teens, but also like they're getting bombarded with messages about respecting boundaries or taking care of yourself. And so they hear messages that we might not have heard growing up. I don't know how they necessarily take those or what they do with them, but they are hearing them that we didn't have. Like I didn't have that language of
Right.
boundaries or taking care of myself when I was a
Right? What
teen.
was a boundary? That wasn't a thing.
No, yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good with the bad, and hopefully, this is my hope for the teens of the world, um, they can figure out muddling through all of that stuff, right? We had our own stuff to muddle through because we didn't have access to information. They have so much access to information that what is good, what is bad, what is helpful, what is hurtful. And yeah, it's not necessarily the bullying, because obviously that happens, but it's just information. So everyone who watches the show knows that autism is a big part of my life. Um, Although all that big stuff that was happening, I want to say a few years ago, but now it's like a few years ago, where they were saying, oh, vaccines caused autism because there was this one study, and then later it's disproven that that study was completely falsified, completely made up, but it made so many parents scared to go and get vaccines. So we have so much access to information now that it's almost an information overload, and you have to dig a little bit deeper into, okay, you're saying that this is what's happening. Is there more than one reputable place that is
Yeah.
saying it, right? What is the real truth behind something? And that can bring you down a pretty hard rabbit hole to begin with. And so it's, the good and the bad, but it is nice that there is now access and people are starting to use the verbiage of boundaries and being safe and getting help and mental health hygiene. I'm totally stealing that. I love it. And I actually know somebody who is older. Like he's not old. He's older than me. He's probably maybe I'm gonna estimate mid 40s to 50s maybe. But he does the same thing. We've had this conversation and he's like, I go to a therapist sometimes, and it's not because I have anything diagnosed. He goes, but sometimes you just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah. That's not in your friend group or your parent or your kid or
Yeah.
yeah, especially for kids, I feel like when they can build a relationship with a therapist, it's somewhere else to talk that stays in that room.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think that's really important, but it's really hard, especially I've lived in many rural places where it's really hard to find access to care.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of full circles to the internet thing, because now there are places online that are actually certified. They're doing their therapy online or over the phone. And so it does open up doors. Mind you, if you're too rural, your internet access might not be fantastic, or, it is a paid for service, but at least there are starting to be options where there definitely wasn't options before.
Exactly.
Yeah, step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you're talking. You mentioned now that you're a single mom, how did that affect your mental health? Because that's definitely not, probably wasn't part of the plan. But how is that all going?
Yeah, it's been a journey and a struggle and all the things, probably for the best. I think um, there's a lot of talk about when women decide that it's time not to be in a marriage. They've already contemplated it for like 5 to 7 years or something ridiculous. Like it's a long process, so it's not like
Yeah.
the right thing. But I think more for me, it was a lot of work around abundance and scarcity mindset, and that was where it came in for me because it could be really scary on your own and really scary to support yourself and kids and to not know what that looks like ahead, and especially I was starting a business and not fully employed, and so a lot of that had to do with learning about self-compassion, like it's okay, compassionate with myself, um, being a little bit okay with the gray and navigating the unknown, and then a lot of work in scarcity and abundance because I can easily slip into a place of scarcity, it's not enough, coupon clipping, not spending money, or just being scared, and it doesn't serve anyone, and it may not always be the reality of what I'm living. And so when I had done a lot of work on like manifestation and working towards openness and abundance, and it just life is a lot better that way, and hoping to impart that on my kids as well.
Yeah. So you say you've done work on it. What does that entail?
mm. So therapy for sure, journaling, mantras, um, probably a lot of self-reflection, like catching yourself. And I don't know if it's necessarily the anxiety part of it, it's just the mindset part. It's like, does this serve me right now? Or how can I look at this? A lot of reframing. So part from a therapist, probably part from journaling and prompts like that. And maybe watching other entrepreneurs and startups or single moms kind of in that same space and building community around that, because the people you surround yourself with, right, are
Yes.
a lot of that work too.
Yes, exactly. Oh, hi, Kitty. And Kitty's trying to come back in my lap. She is always here now. She has. It's so funny. Here's a story completely off track, guys, but it's about kitties, so we're fine. Um, this one here, Binks. She was rescued. One of the girls that I work with, and during my day job,
Mhm.
she rescued a mom and six kittens, and then um, I helped her like take care of them. They were about 6 weeks old or so, and all of them got adopted but Binks. And I kept saying, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, because I already have cats. Well, I wasn't going to let her go to the shelter. I wasn't going to let her go to a random Facebook person. So I was like, okay, fine, I will take her. And the funniest part of this whole thing is the entire time that, so they came about 6 weeks and they leave at what, about 12 weeks or 3 weeks and then 12 weeks. So I helped raise them for about 9 weeks. They were being taken care of. And the entire time, I kept going. If I was going to adopt one, I'd be adopting Cheddar because he was a little orange one, ran up to me. Every time I'd walk in the room, he'd run up to me, always like climb up, loved him. Binks, the one that I have, would be hiding. And I would try and I would try to pet her and I try to love her. I said, Binks, you need to love me. And she just wouldn't. So I said, I don't like this isn't even the cat that I would want because she's so aloof. She doesn't want. And now every time I do an interview, she has to be on my lap. She is the snuggliest thing ever. And it's just so funny how she's come out of her shell and it's almost like, well, when I was with my other five siblings, there was no spot for me, but now there's a spot. There's her little paw. Now there's a spot for me and I'm owning it. And you know what, I said that was off topic, but now I've just full circled, and it is important to go, you know what, there's a lot of people in the world, but there is a spot for me. There's a spot for
Absolutely.
each and every person in this world. So off topic, but full circle. You have a spot in this world. She's just so darn cute.
Very
It's
cute.
hard not to love her. She's not even a year old yet. Um, anyways, so now that we've come full circle, back to our place here. Um, Mantras. Do you have a favorite that you use?
One of my favorites, I have a few. One of my favorites is I'm open to receiving happiness in new and unexpected ways.
Oh,
And that's been serving me well, just because I'm trying to be open to new things and seeing it in different ways. And um, so that's been really helpful. And then a lot of it, I do have to do a lot of pep talk, self talk with the business because I am a solopreneur. I'm building this by myself, and it's amazing. It's gone from 0 to 100, and
wow.
I'm so grateful for it and a lot of appreciation for it. But it's lonely. I'm alone doing it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of like high fiving myself in the mirror or, um, and more recently, I've wanted to be more intentional about celebrating even the smaller wins. Like a lot of times I'll get something or something happens in the business and I like, great, cool, that's amazing. And I move on to the next, like it just keeps going. And I
Yeah.
wanted to be more intentional about celebrating some of those things that are just, they're great. They're good things to celebrate. And even if it's by myself, to celebrate them.
Yeah. It's that being in the moment that you had mentioned earlier, which is important, but you're right. It can be tricky with the looking back sometimes because you do need to look back at times, especially in business. Okay, did that quarter do well, or did that marketing plan go
Yeah.
well? What needs to be tweaked? And it can definitely induce some anxiety because it's scary, especially if you're a solopreneur.
Yeah.
And then you have to look forward because you have to plan the next quarter or the
Exactly.
next big thing. And same with life. Like in life, yes, we want to live in the moment as best we can. So we want to snuggle up our kitties and puppies and horsies and all the things. But we need to be a little bit planning the future, right? Like if you are planning, my husband and I were just planning our little mini vacation for the summer. Has to be planned because you need to book things, you need time off work, and you need to plan retirement. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's so scary. It's, 30 years away from now, but like, am I going to be okay then? And that can be quite anxiety inducing. But then you also have sometimes the past comes up and likes to bite me on the butt occasionally and trigger some kind of panic because, oh my gosh, is that going to happen again? Am I going to be put into that horrible situation again? And you
Yep.
just have to breathe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and with teenagers, that's its own whole other problem. So I just finished through the teenage years with mine. well, I mean, technically the one is 18, so still a teenager, but also an adult, which is a whole other strange place to be. But how are you dealing with having two teenage boys?
That's a good question. Yeah, one of mine's 17, going to be 18 in January, and that's crazy to me. And realizing that he's about to be an adult and go to college. Um, and he has another year of high school. Um, so part of it is just being there for them. And like, I find that I'm in my house and they're in their room doing their thing, or but they still want me there, even though I don't
Yes.
see them or talk to them. And then
Yes.
I'm going to wanting to go to bed at like 10 o'clock at night, and that's when they want to come in and talk and chat. And I'm like doing everything in my power to to embrace that, but also like that's when I want to fall asleep. So like those are the
Yeah.
harder things. Whereas like it's very different than parenting in other ages. Um, and then, like I said before, kind of like giving them the tools and language to navigate some of their relationships or things online. I mean, I'm watching the profound effects of what COVID happened to my own kids, and I think probably throughout the generation. I think there's going to be a lot more research and data, and we don't know everything, but like definitely socially, they kind of miss this whole, the older one in particular, miss the whole like hanging out with their friends in middle school, and like boy girl or what sexuality is, because they're just flirting or hanging out, and like now
Mm-hmm.
they're dealing with it and questioning it or figuring it out, or um, friend groups because they didn't have a lot or whatever it was. Like it's just so different than when we were growing up. But I think COVID and quarantine made that especially difficult for that 15 to 17-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what I'm watching. And then that whole kind of like balance of like independence, but also support, like wanting them to go out and be independent, but
Yes.
also them still knowing that they can come back for support. That's the other part,
Yeah.
navigating.
That's such a tricky part too as they get older because you know they're gonna fail. I mean, young kids fail too, but you know that they're gonna go to a job interview and not get it and be heartbroken. You
Yeah.
know that they're going to go on dates and somebody, even if they are the ones dumping in the
Yeah.
relationship, it's still hard. It's not
Yeah.
easy to do and it's not easy to receive. So it's this whole other part of life that is normal.
Yeah.
It will happen. And as a parent, it breaks your heart because it breaks their heart.
No, totally. It's really hard to watch. And like you can't, the other hard part is like not fixing things for them, right? They
Yeah,
have to have those experiences.
exactly.
Um, and then, there's a whole conversation we can have. My younger son has OCD and pretty severe OCD. And navigating that, it's very different than any other kind of therapy. And the hardest part parenting that is not giving reassurance. It's a kind of the antithesis of parenting. So in OCD,
Okay.
there's a lot of like reassurance seeking. Am I okay? Are things okay? Are you gonna die? I think like the world's ending. And it's our natural instinct as parents to say, "Of no, you're fine. It's of course everything's cool," and that's actually not what you're supposed to do in OCD treatment.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about that a little bit more. I've had a handful of adults on that have been dealing with their OCD, but they weren't diagnosed until being adults. So
Mm.
this is kind of a flip side where I mean you're the parent, but also somebody being diagnosed at a much earlier age. So first off, I have a couple questions. Um, so I'm going to spit them all out because it's probably all one story. But when was he diagnosed? How did that happen? And for those who don't know what OCD is, can you tell us a little bit more about it? Because what people say is OCD is not OCD.
Yeah.
It's quite different. So,
Yeah, so OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. And it can be much more about intrusive thoughts, compulsive thoughts, things that you have to do until it feels right, or worry that if you don't do it, someone might die, you might die. Like it's a kind of a feeling in your body that doesn't feel good. And you also almost can't control it because it's like, if I don't do this, something's going to happen. And then it like you kind of fix that one and it goes on to another one. And usually the treatment is not talking about it, not, even medication doesn't even help reduce things. It's an anxiety disorder. Um, but it's usually exposure therapy where like you have to like
okay.
work through a ladder of doing the thing that is uncomfortable to you, and then building on those tools to have it, or what can you do when you're flaring. um, if you have show notes, there's definitely like I would put links into like OCD communities and groups that have more knowledge, or like if you want to know, because
Of
it really
course.
is a hard diagnosis to go through, or like the process of the assessment to get there. um, my son didn't have a formal diagnosis until recently this year, but we've called it anxiety for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I probably think it even I probably saw signs of it at 5 or 6 years old. And I definitely jury's out if I think there's a panda relationship to it. Something we
Okay.
definitely saw something related to that. That's a whole nother like treatment. How do you even like the research is being done on that, and I don't think there's enough research there. But how do bacteria or other kind of like um, exposure make flares in your brain? Because I definitely think that there's a gut brain inflammation in your body situation. And so like if your stomach's upset or you're having flare, like you're lactose intolerant and you have flare and inflammation in your stomach, you definitely have it in your brain. And so we just don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's happening there and how it presents itself. So that's a whole different medical thing. But with my son, um, we've moved a lot. We have different schools. COVID happened. I'm sure that there's a lot to do with environment and trauma and moving and like wanting to control your area or your life and like things you can't control. So OCD is definitely a way to control things in your life. Um, it can come out in eating. It can come out. It's just so many ways it can manifest itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really important. The most important thing to know is that like traditional therapists usually aren't trained in it and usually can't fix it with talk therapy. It really needs a specialized approach. So that was kind of the main thing I would say. Um, and then being able to name it and being able to say, especially to him or to anyone in your life, like that's your OCD. Like I know that feels uncomfortable, but that's like not you, that's the OCD is
Mm-hmm.
another way to do it. It can also come out in perfectionism, like having not being able to start your work and because you want to do it perfectly or correctly, so then it like just snowballs. Yeah, it
Yes.
can manifest in lots of different ways. Um, and so yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions about.
Oh, I've got a bajillion, but I'm gonna try and narrow them down, right? Because, like you had said earlier, we could probably talk for hours. Um, so when um, when you were saying that reassuring is actually the opposite of what you want to do, what do you do then in
Yeah,
those moments when he's like that?
yeah. So it's really hard to say I don't you can say I don't know or I have confidence that you know the answer or maybe it will happen, maybe it won't, but we don't know. And it's really, really hard as a parent to say that. I will tell you, sometimes it can even manifest for kids as in harm seeking or they're going to hurt themselves, they're afraid they're going to kill themselves. I would say 99% of the time, I should take a step back. I'm not a doctor. I don't have any letters after my name. I'm not,
Yeah.
a therapist. But 99% of the time, OCD kids aren't suicidal. It is a rumination of those thoughts, or I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to hurt someone else. And so that's the hardest place to be as a parent is not to reassure there because you obviously don't want your kid to hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the therapy, when you've gotten to the point where you know it's OCD and you know it's not suicide or depression in that manifestation, some of the therapy is like sleeping in the bedroom with the knives or saying, I'll see you in the morning, and knowing that like it's really uncomfortable and it's really hard as a parent to say that, but that's actually what they need to get through that to know that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's really, really hard as both a parent and the therapy to work through that, but it's actually not harmful, but it doesn't help when you reassure because then they're just going to keep seeking the reassurance from external sources instead of themselves, one.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, it just manifests in another way. So then it's not about that thing that's been obsessing about, then they'll find something else to obsess about. So they actually need to build the skills to be able to manage it themselves.
Yeah. Okay. This is, I mean, obviously TV likes to add a little bit of flair to everything they do, but I just saw an episode of Chicago Med. I love
Mm-hmm.
that show. And the the son, he was an adult child, but had OCD, and the mom needed surgery, but there was this whole thing about everything needed to be balanced in his life. And so they did that kind of like an exposure therapy type of deal where they unbalanced, and it was just a really good episode. And I think it really, as much as TV obviously makes it so that it looks good on TV, really speaks to exactly what you're saying. So it's kind of nice to know that they, didn't totally just make something up, that it kind of, it was that exposure therapy type of thing that they did. And it's kind of neat to know that that is the treatment for OCD.
Yeah, there's also a really good movie called Unstuck. I think it's
Okay.
not on any platform. I think it's just a website or a YouTube to go see it, but that's a really great resource as well about it.
Nice. Oh, I love when they do make movies and stuff and it actually reflects it as best they can in a movie, which still, keeping entertaining.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really fine line to walk is be entertaining, but
Yeah.
also bring like the things that
Yeah.
you need to see to learn about it.
It's actually a
Uh,
documentary. It's not really a movie, but
but still, like can
still,
be
yeah.
documentaries still need to be
Yeah.
entertaining, I feel like, or
Exactly.
else you just turn
Yes.
them off.
Yeah, it's very true.
Um, okay, so how is everybody managing now? Like, so I know other people's OCD is about flicking the light switch an X amount of time, or I know I talked to somebody, I'm trying to think of what it was. It was he had to take a certain amount of steps and then kind of thing. How does it manifest in your son?
Yeah, I want to be careful to respect his
Oh, for
privacy.
sure, for sure.
And it can be some of it's cleanliness and hand washing, some of it is light switch type stuff, some of it's like, did I jinx it if I said something? Like, did I say something and, did I jinx it now? Or is everything gonna be okay? And then there's things I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
there are things that he doesn't always talk about or say, and so that's where I'm hopeful therapy is there for him, especially as he's gone through puberty or teen years. Um, so, but it's not like having to clean his room, or it's not like what we all think about, like it needs to be perfect, that kind of thing. It's a very much in his head thoughts about
Yeah.
the what ifs. That's how it's mostly manifested. Um, and there's a really great resource too that has like the different segments of OCD. It can be like about germs, it can be about thoughts, it can be about like some sexual stuff or food, or I'm gonna choke, or
Hmm.
there's like a lot of different buckets where it can like manifest into.
Exactly. I just want everyone to be clear that, we'll say, "Oh, I'm so OCD about that," but you're not, right? And that is the point that I think you're definitely trying to make, and I'm hoping everybody takes home because, yeah, I am socially OCD, and I'm for those who are listening and not watching, I air quoted, um, because I like the things put back in the spot that they are meant to be. However, if they are not, I don't think anything bad is going to happen. So it's not an OCD behavior. It's a just put your away kind
Yeah.
of behavior. It is, I want things to go back where they need to be.
Yeah.
Because I do have a spouse and I have a kid, and it's like, just put it away. It's not an OCD behavior because I don't think anything bad is going to happen. If it's not, it's just being anal about
Yes.
it, right? And
Yes.
that's a very big difference between what Dara has been talking about with OCD and the thoughts and what people say it is.
For sure.
Okay, so if you were to come across somebody who is, who I'm gonna say a parent because you really speak to parents well, I feel like. So if you come across a parent who is like, oh my goodness, my kid is constantly asking me, is things okay? Or constantly, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah.
Not
So
advice. Sorry, I hate the word advice. What is your
yeah.
wisdom? What is your
Yeah.
learned wisdom?
So usually I talk to so many parents, especially because of the business, but then just because I'm open, and as soon as I start talking, everyone, I seem like every parent then goes and shares their experience. One is I say the biggest thing, like I said before, you're not trying to fix your kids. They're not broken. You're trying to support them. So like that is my underlying message is like once you're trying to fix them or give a problem, like that's not serving anybody. And then the second is to go get help, like specific help with like an assessment, or um, then like not try to take it on yourself because that's a lot. And then the third is to find community, whether it's social media or groups or talking to friends. Like isolation also doesn't serve anyone. So finding other parents that are willing to talk is super helpful.
And that goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, where I mean, social media can be great and horrible, but those are the places that you might be able to find others, especially if so. I mean, depression, anxiety, that's one of the most common ones. You'll probably be able to find somebody walking down the street that you can connect with. But when it comes to something more specific, like say OCD, you might need a Facebook group or something like that because it will be a lot trickier to find that community. I think
Yeah.
I'm making a complete guess here, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Or when you're not really ready to open up to your friend group or your kids' friend group,
Yes,
you need to find it elsewhere.
exactly. So anything else before I have questions about your business, of course, but anything else that you need to share? Okay. So first off, what is the name of it again?
It's Sam and Leo, Sam plus Leo. The
Okay.
website's shopsamandleo.com, or we're on Amazon and
Is that
launching
your kid's name? Like, is
my
that what you
kids'
picked it?
name. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're launching in Whole Foods soon, which is super amazing because there are no teen functional vitamins in the market. There are kids and there are adults, and there's nothing speaking to the needs of teens. So I have energy. It's a caffeine-free energy where I say no 11-year-old or 12-year-old needs a Monster or Red Bull.
Mm.
Um, I have one for eyes for screen time and blue light blocking. It's been
Oh.
around forever as a capsule, never as a gummy. I have one for relax. I have one for sleep, and I have one for immunity, and then we'll be launching others. But really, I use them. What I'm passionate about is that using them as a tool for conversation. So, how do we take care of ourselves? Sleep hygiene. Are we, getting enough energy? Are we feeling run down? Do we need to take immunity? And so, they taste really good, and they're fun packaging. But really, to have a tool because most teens aren't even taking a vitamin.
Right.
Um, and
How did
then,
you come up with it? Like,
yeah, so I've been sitting on the idea for a while that there was a missing segment of products for teens, especially in the clean space. I actually launched in body care, a deodorant and a wipe,
oh, okay.
and paused that business. And it was actually quite, it was like harder in some ways. And then talking to friends and other moms, like realizing there was actually this huge gap in vitamins. And so in some ways a little bit harder because of compliance and things like that, but I wanted to try it. And
Hmm.
then as I've launched it, they launched last year in the market, and just been picking up interest and steam. Um, like therapists love having samples in their office because they see kids from like 3 to 7 p.m. every night, and that's when kids are walking in with their energy drinks, right?
Oh, yes.
And then like screen time discussions, things like that. And so I just felt like there was definitely a market need, but also, the brand gives back to nonprofits working in teen mental health. The
Oh,
packaging is
nice.
recyclable. So there's a whole like sustainability culture around the brand, but I'm really passionate about the mental health part of it.
Yeah, I love that. And so how did you develop them?
Yeah. I first just kind of looked at like what was available for me to test in the market, kind of white label. And then as I kind of figured that out, I went more into drill down into what I wanted for my kids. So worked with a formulator first for the consistency and texture and taste. So my kids don't like the sugar coated ones, nothing that sticks to your teeth. So these
Mhm.
gummies are like clean but taste really good. And they do have sugar in them because I'm competing against like, Red Bull and
Yeah.
sweet things. I also joke that like I raised my kids in all organic and made my own baby food, and they still want to eat Subway and Dr. Pepper. Like
Yeah.
you're offering something where meeting them where they're at. And then I just kind of went into like what I wanted for my own kids, and I actually take some of them myself as well. Um, but really, what our kids were dealing with, right? Like sleep, fatigue, energy, immunity, and stress. And then like things that will be coming down the pipe will be more sports energy or focus, brain, probiotic,
Okay.
hair,
Yeah.
skin, nails, like things like that. But these are the ones where I was like, this is what we're really dealing with.
That's fantastic. I love that idea. And so, okay, I know you said you're launching a wholesale Whole
Whole Foods,
Foods, but
yeah.
like, where do people get them right now?
Right now, I have a website, shopsamandleo.com, or they're on Amazon. But really, the Whole Foods thing's kind of crazy because I'm in their accelerator. They chose 10 brands out of 1,600 to support. Yeah.
Oh my
And they only
gosh,
supplement. Yeah.
congrats.
Thank you. So they also recognized that there was a gap in the market.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of support from them. But right now, it's been 0 to 100, like only online and soon to be on a shelf. But yeah, definitely Amazon's probably the easiest place.
Yeah, especially if you need international shipping.
Exactly.
I know, I'm like, is there even a whole like where is Whole Foods close to me? I'm like, I don't think
Yeah.
that's a thing anywhere near me. So, yeah, exactly. You kind of have, but that's awesome that people can go either on the website, shopsamandleo.com. You just keep saying it,
Yeah.
because you got to
Follow
repeat
us on the
stuff.
socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook at Shop Sam and Leo.
That was going to be my next
Yeah.
question. See, you're above it. You're ahead of the game. Because I definitely think that there, like you said, there's a gap for sure. Because like I said, my kids just went through the teenage years, and I'm still either giving them child vitamins or I'm giving them adult vitamins. There wasn't anything in
Exactly.
that middle ground. So I mean, you're a few years late, but no, I'm just
Still
kidding.
taking them, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're still good. I think it's a great idea, and because you have experience with it, um, I feel like go and follow on, even if you're not ready to try them, go and follow on social media because I mean, if Dara is this open, I'm assuming, again, making an assumption, that your social media is going to be fairly open, because I know personally I would prefer to kind of, what's the word, like creep a brand for, like a new brand for a while
Yeah.
first. I actually just bought Shaper Mint bras, and I creeped them for probably a good year before buying it, because I wanted to make sure that the brand was going to stick around and that people were saying good things about it. So, I mean, follow on social media,
Yeah.
creep her for a while, and then get to know her and the brand, and then go. I know that's probably not the best thing. I should say go and buy right now, but really,
Yeah.
from one person to another, I prefer to creep on a brand for a bit. Not always a year. The only reason Shaper Mint was for a year is because I really like the NYX bras, but they didn't have my size this time, so it took me a while. Um, but I do usually creep for a while before making that kind of commitment. And I mean, not commitment, because you can always take one and throw it out, but like, it's a commitment because it is a vitamin,
It's a purchase. Yeah.
right? And it's a vitamin that you're putting into your body. It's not like, okay, I'm going to wear this shirt. It's something you're putting in your body. So you want to make sure that it's up and up, and I'm sure it is, but that's,
Yeah.
follow her. Even if you're not ready to commit, follow.
That's actually
It's
great
easy.
feedback for me as the owner, because knowing that it's actually a longer lead time for someone to watch me and then try me, and that we're just building right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I have a lot of content about me, why behind the brand. There's a lot of mental health resources, so definitely follow, because it's not just the vitamins.
Yeah, I'm all about the why behind a brand, to make sure that
Hmm.
it's something that a CEO didn't just go, yeah, I want to make more money, here you go. Somebody
Right.
actually cares and committed, and did a lot of research, and if they're taking it themselves, I want to see them and how it's going. So follow follow her. It's easy, it's free. Click, and then eventually you'll do what you need to do.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for coming on and sharing, not just about the business, but about yourself, and especially about your son and OCD, because it's just, yes, I've had a few people on, but it's not as common as some of the other things that we talk about. So it's nice to hear other things. I love hearing about the other stuff in the world. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for
I'm
sharing all
happy
of
to be
that.
on anytime if more questions or follow up. Happy to continue the conversation whenever.
I feel like for sure we will get down that route, especially as you get new products that you
Yeah.
wanna talk about, because I always love supporting other people at the end of the show, of course. But I love supporting other people. It's important.
Definitely.
And for everybody listening, watching, have an awesome rest of your day. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe, obviously do that, because again, it's free, so just do it. Um, all of Dara's information is going to be down below in the description, so you can hit her up and make sure that you give her a follow, nice and easy. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.